Ian. Here we are, friends of the internet, speaking about Battlefield Hardline today with me and, of course...
Well, me, obviously.
Yeah. And we're speaking to a lovely man called Steve, who should be seated to my left. There he is. And, yeah, we're talking about Hardline. So we're going to kick it off, first of all. First question, not too hard. I played the beta, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. My first question is, why this setting for the next Battlefield game? Where would this idea come from? Why not Battlefield 2143? Why not something a bit more established?
Well, we talked about kind of the Foreign Legion as an option.
Oh, okay.
And the Civil War, but those just didn't really do it. So we kind of decided we'd get a little crazy and do cops and robbers instead.
So you had the idea maybe, Battlefield, what would it be, 1842 maybe? Would that be
There
one?
you go, you could do that. I guess,
1842?
I don't know if that's really Civil War era. I think it's like 1846.
I don't know my American history.
Yeah, that's okay. I wouldn't expect you to.
No,
No, we
being a redcoat.
No, being more serious for a minute. We got the idea for Battlefield Hardline because when you think about the Battlefield franchise, it's gone across a bunch of different eras and a bunch of different settings, right? So 1942, 2142 you mentioned, secret weapons that got a little crazy, Vietnam, and it was just really cool in the sense that Battlefield continued to change but kind of stay the same. And it was an opportunity for us to do something new and different and fresh. And so one of the things that appealed to us about Battlefield is that idea of the war in the streets that goes on every day between the cops and the criminals. So that was kind of the genesis of the idea.
Bong, would you like to continue with another hot question?
I shall continue. We played the beta to death, and we loved it. And the first thing I found was that the sawn-off shotgun was the best thing in games so far. What actually disappointed me was that asymmetry wasn't kind of it's set in concrete. Once you'd got that gun, you could use it as a policeman. And
so I think what I'm hearing is you would like it if, say, only one team had the sawed-off shotgun.
Yeah. And so if you're a policeman and you kill somebody with the sawn-off, you can pick it up and use it.
Right.
Are you going to build upon the asymmetry, any asymmetry at all?
Well, what if I told you yes? What if I told you yes right now? We have incorporated that feedback that we got from fine folks like yourselves from the beta and have actually put that in the game. Would that be good?
That would be amazing.
Great, next question.
Okay, great.
In the beta map, anyway, there was a Levolution event. There was a crane that falls down and crunches everything. Looks pretty cool. Now, is that something is going to be present on all the maps in Hardline? Is that something the Battlefield franchise now just has by default? These Levolution events. Is that something you have to think? Okay, we have to put. Considering Battlefield 4 all had a Levolution event on all the map, we have to now do one for all these maps, or is it just some of them? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think, it's a great question. I think, it's hard to take things away once you put it in a franchise. People kind of come to expect it. So I think Levolution, I think Levolution is something that a lot of people enjoy. We're really focused on doing Levolution events that range in scale from something like that crane to something small like closing doors, opening doors, raising police bollards, having the pop plants be able to be set on fire and then create a suppression effect if you don't have a gas mask on, things like that, right? We don't just want to have big spectacle things. We want these moments to actually be something that teams talk about and strategize around. Hey, we want to go ahead and light all the pop plants on fire because we all have gas masks and we know that the other team will be suppressed and we can go in and pick them off.
Okay.
So we want them to be cool, strategic elements. Something that we've talked about, though, is considering giving players the option to be able to turn those off. I'm not saying that we're doing that for sure, but that's something that we've talked about.
Like a service setting?
Yes, giving people the options to have it or not. Because
I
think some people really, really love it, and other people are like, no, they don't want it. And I think what's ultimately important is that players decide what they want. Okay,
fair enough. Okay, that's cool.
I think there's a lot of flack when Hardline first came out about it being, it's just a... when the announcement of Hardline came out, that this is just a reskin, this is just a DLC. How did the dev team take that? Like, personally, did it? Were they motivated to work extra hard to try and differentiate Hardline from the normal Battlefield kind of franchise of militarized combat, or was it a negative, or
Yeah. So the beta was pretty different, right? Like I think we're the first game I could think of that announced itself and allowed people to play it the same day. And we knew doing that there were going to be a lot of questions. Part of the reason we did it was because there were going to be a lot of questions. Well, what's the game like? You know, is it just a reskin? Blah, blah, blah. I think a lot of the people that interacted with the game mistakenly thought that the game was one map with 2 game modes, which is absolutely not what it is. We've got 7 game modes and 9 maps and a whole single-player campaign that we've created from the ground up. I think going into it, we knew that because Battlefield has so many passionate fans, that there are going to be people that question it or don't like it, or it's just not their cup of tea. You know, the posts that I see that can sometimes be perceived as negative is I like to think of them as just they're passionate. These are passionate people. So rather than thinking of it as negative or hateful, I think of it as love.
It's a very optimistic way.
So that there is this passionate love for what they're talking about, and that it's our responsibility to try to interpret that and, you know, do our best to address it. I'm very confident when people give it a chance and really look at the game and experience the game, that they'll see that this is a completely new thing that we've built and put countless hours into making, and want to be very special and very high quality and very stable.
Well, you mentioned just then the single player. Now, being multiplayer players, we just love multiplayer games, and Battlefield traditionally all about the multiplayer. Has it been hyped enough? Because it sounded really cool. It sounded like episodic, like a TV show. But I feel like I haven't seen that. I did see the single player trailer, and that was quite cool. But like I haven't seen much more of it. Now, is that because you're worried that people are just be like, oh, I don't care, it's all about the multiplayer? Like, is that that's been happening? Or
I think part of it is the fact that people, when they talk about Battlefield, they talk about multiplayer. And that was, you know, our goal was to show multiplayer first, to show the commitment and the focus we have on making that. I think what we're doing is very unique and special, and we plan to talk more about that in the weeks to come here.
Okay.
But you're right, you know, at Gamescom we showed our single-player reveal, which I think teased at what the game's about, right? The episodic nature, the various mechanics that we've added to the franchise, the fact that you can play it a variety of different ways, whether you want to take the guns blazing approach or the non-lethal approach or a mix of the two. You know, there's things that may sound simple, but if you've played Battlefield before, they don't really show the main protagonist ever. So in our game, you know, we're going to have camera cuts that show off the different characters, and you know, we put a lot of effort into the acting and the performance and the motion capture that we're using, and also we're really focused in bridging the two in the sense that we have a great investigation mechanic in our game in single player that if you actually go through and solve all the investigations, you'll unlock battle packs that you can use in multiplayer. So hopefully that brings in some of the hardcore guys and girls that only play multiplayer, have them come in because they want those battle packs and experience what our single player has to offer.
Okay, so there's more details of the single player to come in the next few weeks, and do you think it's going to be something that's going to surprise people then, a lot of it?
I think it'll be something very different. You know, I think, you know, I'm pretty excited
about.
Confident. Pretty excited about showing it to people.
Okay.
You know, we'll see what people think.
Excellent. Well, that's good news. We've got one more question then. I'll let Adam field this one.
So just a kind of a closing off question is. Why is Hardline worthy of being a game in its own right? Why can it stand up on its own 2 feet? And what sets it apart in your minds from...
and will people play it over BF4?
Yeah.
That's a good question. Well, I get excited every day to go to the studio because I feel like what we're making is innovative for the franchise. You know, I talked a little bit about our single-player campaign that allows for a lot of player choice. The fact that we're rolling in that TV aesthetic to make it feel very episodic. You know, on the multiplayer side, I think the fact that we've got such a great backdrop to pull from, cops and robbers, and making sure that our game modes really leverage that fiction to the fullest. You know, whether it's things like heist or the hotwire mode we have or rescue. Modes that make sense in that setting, I think, are really going to make the game feel like a very cohesive experience that people are going to enjoy. And if people have liked action movies or cops and criminals TV shows, I think they're really going to like our game quite a bit.
Cool. Okay. Oh, brilliant. Cool. Thanks very much.
Speaking to us, and that was Hardline. Cops, robbers, and smoking weed, by the sounds of it. Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Awesome.